Well, good morning, Norma. This
Good,
is very fun to have you to give us the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say.
good
Your
morning.
what you got out of the big tornado experience and how that's helped your life and worked in your life. So go ahead and share with us.
Well, this experience started really when we moved in the 2nd of June. And 2 months and a couple of days later, on August 6th, this whole event happened. The tornado came and did a number on our house. It was not livable. So we had borrowed a travel trailer, put it in the front yard, and our children slept in a tent, and we started on the summer. It it was an interesting time because we had many meetings with our children that were talking about what are the important things. I think we all learned how to prioritize and to know that God is with you through all of this, just checking you out, seeing how things can go. You prove yourself that you can handle these kinds of things, because this is not the only disappointment that you'll have in your life. This is not the only stress you'll have in your life. And if you can learn how to manage this one, the rest of them will fall into place. Not easy, but they'll fall into place. I was listening at one time to a lecture by Dr. Murray Banks, who was a psychiatrist out of Bellevue in New York. And his saying was, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. The donut is the support you have from God, from each other. And the hole is the nothingness that you need to avoid. It's
Mm,
part of the things in life that I call the nuts. It's just nuts.
yeah.
It's not necessary and it's not even nice. It's nuts. And so keeping your eye upon the donut, we had lots of experiences with that have brought us to understanding what the donut is all about. The donut was all of the people who came to help us in one way or another. Many of them we didn't know. There was a priest who came. I knew that only because he had a collar and people were calling him Father. I have no idea what his name was. It didn't matter. He was moving what was left of furniture and different items around the house. Other people had come to our aid, some from church. And Sunday afternoon after church, we were gathered at the house with a number of people. And there were some people who were vacuuming the insulation out of the front yard, and other people who were raking the insulation out of the living room, or
Mm,
what had been the living room. They were all there in support. Not that you were having that direct connection with them that said, I need this. It was just there, sort of like God just makes it just there for you when
mhm,
you don't even know it. You don't know what you need. And
mhm.
certainly we were in such shock, we really didn't know what we needed.
Right.
Uh, but it came in many different forms. It came in the fire department that showed up the Monday night. This tornado happened on a Sunday evening. And on Monday night, their regular meeting night, they showed up in our front yard and put um, plastic visqueen over what was left of our roof so that anything that we needed to salvage from the inside could be salvaged. And and there they were. They were making some uh, temporary trusses out of the lumber that they found laying around the yard.
Mm,
It was an interesting time how people just naturally support one another.
mhm.
Everybody had their eye upon the donut.
Yeah.
There were temporary fixes, but it was fine. It was wonderful. It was it was not all peaches and cream going through this. It was a very hot summer. and we had a lot of storms. And of course, the children being in a tent didn't stay in the tent all night. They would come and they'd find a piece of floor anywhere in the in the trailer, and find a place to lay and sleep. But one of those nights, I went into the house because our bathrooms had no outdoor windows, but the plumbing worked on that end of the house. I was using the facilities, and I came out, and the rain was coming down, just buckets, and part of a piece of wallboard, something came crashing to the floor. And I remember sitting down and for the first time really crying and saying, I just can't do it anymore. This
Mm.
is just it was just the end of, I said, I looked up and I said, stop. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of a release to say, I'm at my limit. I have to start going in another direction.
Yeah.
And, our faith as a family held us through all those really, really down times.
Mhm.
There were more surprises of support than there were disappointments. You kind of expected when your kitchen drawer was filled with coal from the coal plant and all your junk was blown away. You expected those kinds of things. It was almost like, oh, kind of an Alice in Wonderland sort of, oh, I didn't know this could happen kind of thing. But there were a lot of pep talks with the kids.
Mm.
One was in high school, one was in junior high, and one was in grade school. So we had talks about, what this meant
Mm.
and how we could grow from it, and how we needed to prioritize. We discovered, the very basic things that, food and a shelter and uh, some clothing were really the basis of what you needed. A lot of other things were, in the necessary, nice, and nuts world, they
Mhm.
were nice, but they weren't necessary.
Yeah.
And so we were focusing on the necessary at
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Right.
And then came the nice.
Mhm.
I do have to say, I was without curtains in my living room. Wasn't the fashion then, of course, not to have curtains, but we didn't have curtains for many years in our living room because there were other things that took priority over
Mhm.
having curtains
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. One of the funny things regarding curtains was I had little cafe curtains in the kitchen, and the day or two after the tornado, we found the curtains, and they were in the top of a very tall tree at the end of the road. And they stayed there until they rotted out because there was no
Oh,
way, no way to retrieve them. And who cared
wow.
at
Yeah.
that point? It was just a sign of, oh, yeah, that I recognize that. But
Mm.
so different kind of things happen that you just kind of have to take with um, some stability.
Yeah.
There are things you don't control.
Yeah.
And that was one of it, one of those things. But,
Mm.
we had the basic getting through it all, I think was very important with our relationships with a lot of people. I think
Mhm.
God worked through a lot of the undercurrent of what we needed, what
Mm.
was necessary, and eventually what was nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was not an altogether bad experience in that we learned a lot.
Mhm.
We learned, as I said, how to set priorities, what's important in life, how do you treat others, when will you be available to help somebody else who's had a really ugly thing happen to them.
Yeah.
And it's a good lesson,
Yeah.
maybe not just for kids,
Right. For
but for the
all of
rest,
us.
for all of us, for
Well, and
all
I
of
and I and I can see so many similarities with what we have been going through with the pandemic and
absolutely.
everybody having some different challenges. You and Lou have had challenges with his health, and maybe you just want to say a little bit about how this past year has you have been supported by what you learned before.
Absolutely. We know from what we learned before that things evolve. They don't stay the same. And if you keep your shoulder to the wheel, as they say, um, the situation will resolve itself. Not always get better in your own eyes.
Hmm.
Lou and I have been through a couple of years of his health issues,
Hmm.
and it's culminated in this winter having uh, 6 stents and a new valve. I mean, it's not a small matter, but it's something you just kind of progress through.
Right. Right.
But you've learned that over time. We've been married for 59 years, and it's a lot of time to begin to learn a few things about how to
Right.
handle
Yeah.
difficulties. And
Right.
certainly we are going through a difficult time now, not we personally, but the world really is going through some difficult times right now.
Right.
And you do rely on the basis, and the basis is God through all of it.
Right.
You know, kind of nudging you,
Hmm.
making you aware of there's something else you need to be doing,
Yeah.
and looking for that place
Hmm.
that where you could make your presence help someone or help a condition or be part of something that was positive. Um,
Right. I think of all the masks you made. And maybe you're still back to making masks. I don't know, but you have
oh,
definitely made a difference in a lot of areas, even in the midst of this. And you're and knitting for little ones.
little
So
ones, yes, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, well, it's kind of a family thing. It's my sister who knits the mittens and knits. It sounds strange, but she knits a pair of mittens every single day. And
Wow.
so that's a lot of mittens. And she lives in a place where kids don't wear mittens. So she sends them, and we in the Quad Cities enjoy them here. So
Yeah, yeah.
you find a place that you can make what gifts you've been given can make a difference.
Right.
And, and so there it works. But yeah, this is very similar to a lot of this this pandemic is very similar to a lot of things, other strifes people have had in their lives.
Right.
I guess that what makes it so um, poignant is that everybody's going through the same things, in
Right.
terms of where you go, and how you mask, and how you distance, and what you eat, and all of those things
Right.
make a difference. And everybody's going through the same things, whereas the personal strifes that one has are
Hmm.
just that, they're personal and
Right. Right.
not obvious to other people
Right.
who have their own different kinds of strifes. But
Right.
there's a friend of mine once says, life is full of vibrato. And if you've ever listened to a violin of a little kid just learning, there is no vibrato. And
Hmm.
it is hard to listen to some of those notes. And once the vibrato comes, it's very easy to listen to and pleasant to listen to.
Yeah.
Life is like that. Life has vibrato. Life has ups and downs. And without it, we would be kind of flat and
Yeah.
hard to be with ourselves, maybe.
Right.
And so, in all of those ups and downs, if you can keep God as the go-to, the
Hmm.
stable, there's got to be a reason for this
Yeah.
kind of attitude, I
Right.
think it makes these situations a little more palatable. Not
Right.
easy, but a little bit more palatable. It's sort of like me yelling in the night at the ceiling crashing down. I'm done with this.
Right. Well, thank you
And
so much, Norma. I think that is is so full of wisdom and experience. And I just really want to thank you for sharing that. And I hope over these coming months, other folks will share their wisdom with us as well. And I want to thank you so much for being on here today. And we'll connect at Bells.
You bet. You bet.
Okay.
Good
Thank
day to
you.
you. Yes.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye. I want to remind us about a couple of things that Norma said. One was the three N's: what's necessary in life, what's nice to have in life, and what's just plain nuts. And acknowledge the things that are nuts, take care of what's necessary, and add in what's nice. I also appreciated her comment about this will resolve. This will resolve whatever you are battling right now. It will resolve. It might not be the way you like it to be. It might not be the most comfortable thing for you, but it will resolve. It will resolve. And one last story I wanted to share with you comes from Norma when we were talking to get ready for this. Here we are, how many years later? 30, 40, I don't know. It's been a long time since that storm hit. It could have been like 40 years ago since that tornado happened. When they open books on their bookshelf, they sometimes still find the insulation from their house. And that is a metaphor for how our life goes when we have these storms in our life, whether it's a tornado taking things all apart from our life, or even just the difficult times that help to shape us. We never lose the the essence of those things that happen to us, whether it's literally insulation that shows up. But those little moments help remind us how far we've come and how far God has taken us in the resolution of whatever we're going through. Whatever we're going through as a church congregation in these next months and years, as we eventually resolve in some way with the coronavirus and our needs to not be worshiping in person. However, we resolve things, God will be with us. And whatever you are going through in your life, that will resolve as well. May peace be with you. Amen.